Go across now to the management of Equitas Finance Bank, who's joining us as well, Mr. Vasudevan, the MD and CEO. There have been a lot of questions, of course, around what's caused the delay in the listing process and otherwise. Mr. Vasudevan, thanks so much for joining us. To start off with, why has there been or what has caused the delay? And is the timing incorrect given the present situation? Do you feel perhaps you could list at a higher valuation later? Or is there a transition in the business of the bank that needs to be addressed before you would like to list? And is this similar to the situation that we've seen at Ujjivan?
See, just to give you a background, we started the bank 3 years back. So we commenced operations 5th of September 2016. And as per our guidelines, we are required to list the bank shares within a period of 3 years, which is really 5th of September, which has just gone by. We do have a holding company, Equitas Holdings, which is already listed. And Equitas Holdings has 100% shares of the bank. And Equitas Holdings by itself doesn't have, any other business except holding the shares of the bank and one other small subsidiary. So basically, we were trying to look at all options possible to see how do we avoid getting two listed companies for the same, essentially the same business. So we approached RBI somewhere about a year and a half or 2 years back, saying that, can they please permit us to merge the two entities, the holding company and the bank? Can they permit us to merge it so that the bank shares will automatically get listed in the process? And we will have only one listed entity for the bank. But RBI was not able to approve that because there is another guideline which says that the promoter has to have a 40% shares in the bank locked in for a period of 5 years. And the promoter, the holding company is treated as a promoter in our case because we don't have individual promoter as such. And so that was not possible to go through. So then the next option that we thought is we do have in the bank, we have sufficient free reserves. And so we thought, why not we capitalize that and issue shares without cash consideration to the shareholders of the holding company and in proportion to their holding in the holding company. So if we do that, then obviously the shares so issued can then get listed in the stock exchange. And in the process, actually 47% of the bank was planned to be diluted in favor of the current shareholders of the holding company. So we believed that the public shareholders in the holding company would stand to benefit by getting direct participation in the bank up to 47%. Without going through an IPO where potentially anyone from the market could end up subscribing to the IPO shares. But this required prior SEBI approval before we can actually file it with NCLT for the approval process. So we had applied to SEBI and through the stock exchanges. And as of now, actually, we are still awaiting the feedback on this particular application. That is why the actual delay. And, the moment we get the feedback, the possibility is that SEBI may either approve it or reject it. If they approve the scheme, then it's actually a 6 month process by which we hope to get the bank shares listed by going through the NCLT approval process. In case they turn it down, then obviously we will then have to just do an IPO. Actually, one of our peer level SFBs, Ujjivan, has already filed for a DRHP. They are also exactly in the same situation as us. They already filed a DRHP. So then we may also have no choice but to go ahead and file a DRHP and take it through the IPO route. So this is the background and this is the situation. So the moment we get a feedback from SEBI, we should move in either one direction and hopefully get it listed within a period of 6 months from then.
Sure. Mr. Vasudevan, there are three options. The earlier proposed reverse merger, the IPO, and the latest being capitalization of your free reserves. How is each different, and how will it impact the shareholders differently? And which would you say is the most accretive to shareholders?
See, basically, as I mentioned, the merger thing is not on the table today because we haven't completed 5 years, and the promoter company, the holding company, which is the promoter of the bank, they have to have a 40% of the bank shares locked in for 5 years. And so because of that, RBI declined our request for merger. So that's not on the table. So anyway, that we'll have to take it out for the present. Then it is between the basically the scheme of arrangement which we have applied for and awaiting the approval, and the third alternate which is the doing the IPO. So if we do the second route, which is a scheme of arrangement, essentially 47% of the bank shares will be diluted in favor of the shareholders of the holding company. But that would not add to the share capital of the bank, which is actually fine from our perspective because we are very well capitalized at this point in time. And for the next 3 to 4 years, even assuming we are able to grow at a very robust level of, let's say, 30 to 40%, even then, for the next 3 to 4 years, we would really not require additional tier 1 capital. And so we are not really, at this point in time, we have no desire or no need to really raise tier 1 capital. And the scheme of arrangement would really just redistribute our free reserves to the shareholders of the whole co. Without increasing the share capital of the bank, which is fine from our perspective. So there will be no change in the shareholding of the bank, except that the holding company, which is currently 100%, would become for 53, and the shareholders of the whole co will then hold the balance 47. As far as the IPO is concerned, in case we are not getting the approval for the scheme and we need to do an IPO, then we will have to actually dilute and raise capital in the bank. So since we don't really need a tier 1 for some point in time, so we will dilute and do an IPO for whatever is the minimum that is required as per regulatory framework. So whatever be the minimum that we have to raise in the IPO, that's what we would really aim to raise, and the remaining would remain in the hands of the holding company.
Will RBI bank on new branches and capping of salaries? Will that have an impact on the financials of the company?
See, one is the salary of, it's actually the MD and not the senior administrator, just the MD and CEO, which is me. So my salary being capped, I think, is something which I'll have to live with. So that's not something which affects the bank. But as far as the branch licensing is concerned, the RBI letter says that we cannot open fresh new branches until further notice. And also they mentioned that they will be observing the kind of steps that we are taking to comply with the listing requirements. So frankly, if you look at it, we are on the job of trying to list the bank. We have applied for approval under our scheme of arrangement. As of now, we are awaiting, and we do hope that we shall get that feedback either way very, very shortly. And once that happens, then the actual steps for listing would commence, and then from then it's only a 6 months period, and we should be able to list it within that period of time. So we have been and will continue to be submitting all of this status information to RBI from time to time, and we do hope that at some point in time RBI would relax this condition of no new branch opening until further orders. That is one point. The second point is that when we started the bank about 3 years back, we had actually set up about 400 liability branches, and we already have over 600 asset branches, which is the erstwhile NBFC branches. So overall, we have about approximately 1,070 odd banking outlets, so to say. So we do have a very strong network of branches, and with 400 liability branches and 600 and odd asset branches, our current balance sheet size is about 17,000 crores. Surely there are banks with similar kind of branch network where their size is maybe more than 2 to 3 times of our size. So obviously we do have a very strong branch network as of now, which can support maybe a significant growth over the next few years. And this restriction is only, we are very, very sure it's only a very short term, because we are anyway on the job of listing. So in a maximum of 6 months, once that process gets completed, we do hope that this restriction would anyway get lifted. But we do have a very strong branch network to carry us through even for the next maybe a couple of years.
Sure, Mr. Vasudevan, thanks so much for joining us this morning.